Talbot was in a relationship with Frank Ocean. I didn't even know Frank Ocean was gay. It was very shocking news to me. Um, I was so high on Payton Talbot. Um, uh, and then what happened against Raoni Barcelos, and my expectations of him went away, right? And I could be wrong, to be honest. It doesn't mean that his striking abilities and his fighting abilities have gone away after losing to Raoni Barcelos. However, I do genuinely feel like that loss exposed him, and I think every single athlete is going to potentially try to exploit that. And in this particular situation, I feel like Felipe Lima is the perfect guy to actually exploit Payton Talbot's lack of grappling abilities. And someone said, I think it's Renier the Rizlord. Renier the Rizlord said something like, he doesn't have enough confidence in Payton Talbot to actually work on his grappling because he's busy running around with Frank Ocean. And a part of me feels like that might potentially be true. And even apart from that, I genuinely don't feel like it's he has had enough time to actually improve his grappling. And even though I am still super worried, I'm Randy CB. Saludos, welcome to the channel, man. Even though I genuinely still do feel like Peyton Talbot is actually an insanely talented striker, I think he's going to be a little bit more tentative, knowing that Felipe Lima is going to try and grapple him. The confidence of being undefeated is a little bit different, right? And in going into that fight with Raoni Barcelos, I actually did tell people that I hate repeating this so many times, but I actually did call it out that I felt like Peyton Talbot's wrestling had not been tested, and he might potentially get checked, especially considering Raoni Barcelos' grappling abilities, and that's actually what happened. And I think Felipe Lima is significantly better at grappling than Raoni Barcelos, in my own humble opinion. So I could see a situation where, um, what do you call him? Felipe Lima just takes Peyton Talbot down and actually finds a way to submit him, right? Maybe Peyton has found a way to actually work on his grappling and he's going to embarrass all of us by knocking out Felipe Lima. But I mean, Felipe Lima is also another prospect, and I think that's what the UFC is trying to establish. They are putting the grappler basically against the striker in order to establish or which one is actually a legit prospect. Because when you look at Peyton Talbot, he's been knocking out people like Cameron Simon, which is not an easy thing to do, right? So, and obviously, he's been given stylistically good matchups for him. So that's why he's been able to perform the way he's been performing. It's no surprise that he's been undefeated and knocking everyone out. But I think the UFC is basically trying to establish who is actually the solid prospect here. Is it Felipe Lima? Because Felipe Lima is on a 14 fight win streak, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and to be fair, I'm going to repeat this point. Just because Peyton Talbot lost to Raoni Barcelos doesn't take away from the fact that he's been knocking people out. And that could happen in this particular fight. It's not like his knockout ability is now gone, especially considering he has a 2.5-inch reach advantage in this particular fight. For anyone else, that means nothing. But for a striker like Peyton Talbot, it's massive because it means he can actually get to the knockout a lot quicker, right? And when you consider the fact that Peyton Talbot has an 89% finishing rate, whereas Felipe Lima has a 50% finishing rate, it's honestly quite worrying because it means that it's highly possible that if Felipe Lima wins, it's probably going to be via decision. If Peyton Talbot wins, it's probably going to be via finish. And decision winners normally give an opportunity to finishers to actually land something that could put them out, right? When you are grappling with or when you're fighting someone who normally has the ability to finish a fight, and you are basically it's like, for example, imagine an average a Merab Devalishvili without cardio. You know, I'm not saying that's Felipe Lima. I'm just saying when you are a decision fighter, you give the knockout artist an opportunity to actually find a knockout at some point in the fight, right? And that's one of the things that worry me about Payton Talbot in this particular fight. Obviously, when we look at the striking abilities, Payton Talbot is going to be a little bit better, actually a lot better. He throws more volume. He's technically better at striking. Felipe Lima has better defense, however, it's obviously because of the grappling threat. But obviously, and when it comes to striking, I don't think Felipe Lima is going to have much of a chance, except maybe his striking defense is pretty decent. So he might be able to survive, but I honestly wouldn't want him to even attempt to try to strike with Peyton Talbot. I expect him to shoot right away. My only concern is that the Peyton Talbot, irrespective of what we might think, he might have improved enough, just enough to actually be able to stand up, even if he's taken down. He might be able to find a way to actually stand up, and that's honestly very worrying. So yeah, on the feet, obviously it's going to be Peyton Talbot. On the ground, it's going to be Felipe Lima. Even though Raoni Barcelos was successful in taking him down, I mean, Peyton Talbot still has pretty decent takedown defense. So this is gonna be a very interesting fight. Uh, just because I picked the Felipe Lima, it doesn't necessarily mean I think Peyton Talbot is washed or anything like that. I just felt like I'm going to go with the grappler over the striker, especially knowing Peyton Talbot has not had that much time to improve his grappling. So, yeah, my subscribers and I are going with Felipe Lima, but I could honestly see a situation where Peyton Talbot just knocks him out somehow, right? But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. This, in my opinion, is the classic striker versus grappler. I'm backing the grappler in this particular fight, but I'm worried because the grappler doesn't have that much finishing rate. A 50% finishing rate is not great versus someone who has an 89% finishing rate in Peyton Talbot. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting fight. So yeah, officially my subscribers and I are going with Felipe Lima. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this one goes. Let's go to the last fight. I love and appreciate all of you. Let's go to that one. I think it's Gregory Rodriguez versus Jack Hermanson. Let's go. Deuces.